This is the Let's Connect with Leslie O'Hare podcast. Your host, Leslie O'Hare, dating and conflict resolution coach, TV personality, TEDx speaker, and author, created this podcast to ignite a spark of excitement that will immediately educate, motivate, empower, and inspire all women to live their best life. The Let's Connect with Leslie O'Hare podcast. Created for women by a woman. Let's Connect is more than a talk show, it's a conversation show. Let's have a conversation. Here's Leslie.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Connect with Leslie O'Hare. I am so happy to be here with you. And yes, we are live again this Friday. I love starting the show by explaining why I created this podcast. I really wanted to take the opportunity to utilize the platform that God has given me as a TV personality, TEDx speaker, author, and dating and conflict resolution coach. So with all the accolades that I do have, I wanted to find a way that I could have conversations with you, because we live in a world today with, unfortunately, the pandemic still going on, and just things that go on in your day-to-day life. We never take the time to have proper conversations, or the conversations that are important that we should be having. And I thought Let's Connect was really a great way to do that. So we can connect together every week on certain commonalities to be able to be inspired and empowered to live your best life. So I really hope that throughout these past several months that I've been doing the podcast, that you really have been inspired and you've been able to see yourself as God sees you, and that you've also been able to take these conversations and see how they would best benefit your life. We're approaching a brand new year, 2022. I can't believe that I'm saying that, but we are. And so this is a time where people start doing a lot of soul searching and really taking stock and evaluation of their life, things to change and become better. And I can't think of a greater time than now to do that, especially as we're approaching the holiday season, and being able to just be thankful, being able to be grateful. And I can tell you, every single day, there's always something. I love to say every second of every day, there's always something to be grateful for. And I'm grateful to have our guest today, Miss Karol Ladd. Karol Ladd is one of the best-selling authors. She has over 35 books, extremely successful. We're going to be back with her in just a few moments right after the commercial break. That's Miss Karol Ladd. I'll be sitting down with her, and I'm excited to sit down and talk about her book, The Power of a Positive Woman. Yes, ladies, we're talking about how can we be positive every single day of the week. So after the commercial break, I'll be back with Miss Karol Ladd. Back in a moment.
Did you know that how you are perceived by others is a direct reflection of how you present yourself to the world? The brainchild of stylist Bobby Schwartz, Be Iconic Style is the online resource for all women looking to up their style game. From learning how to address the challenge of daily dressing and building your essential wardrobe, to learning how to build your power wardrobe and dressing for success, Be Iconic Style is the only website you'll ever need. We even do the shopping for you. Looking for a one-on-one consultation with Bobby? We do that too. Visit us online at beiconicstyle.com. Be confident, be empowered, be iconic.
We are back with Let's Connect with me, Leslie O'Hare. And so I was telling you before the commercial break, I have Karol Ladd as my guest today. She is the best-selling author of over 35 books, and she also started an amazing outreach organization called Engage Positive Parenting Initiative. We're going to talk a little bit about that later in the show as well, because I think that's phenomenal. But today we're going to delve into one of her books that I love many of her books, but this specific one is The Power of a Positive Woman. I wanted to have her on today to talk about that, because as a coach, I meet with women so much that come to me and ask, how can they stay positive with so much of the world being on their shoulder? So without further ado, here's Miss Karol Ladd. Hi.
Hi, Leslie. Great to see you.
Nice seeing you also. How are you?
Great to be with you today.
Well, it's great to have you here. You know, I know that you're considered the positive lady. You have the Power of a Positive Woman. you also have the power of a positive wife. So a lot of your books start with positive in your title. And I really want to know, what is it about that word that made you want to make that the focal point of many of your books? Because you also have the power of positive mom. And I think it's great to lead that way, because I do believe in life, if we stay positive, we're in control of our mind, because mind over matter. And then it allows us to keep our footing strong and allow God to take over and know that He's never left us. So, what is it about that word that made you want to make that a focal point?
Well, it's interesting, Leslie, as we see the negativity in our world today, and I'm very concerned about the despair and the fear that so many women have in their lives. And so when I think about what is the antidote to all of this fear and despair, well, it's hope, and it's courage, and it's faith. And so all these things go into being positive. And often people ask me, well, can anybody be positive? Because I kind of feel like a negative person all the time. Can I be a positive person? And I want to say to that person who really struggles with positivity that anybody can become a positive person, because we're able to change our thought patterns. We're able to think new thoughts and focus on different things than just ruminating on what's wrong in our life and what we're angry about.
I agree with you. If we just, and as I said, mind over matter, that's really what
Yeah.
it comes down to. And I tell everyone, because I live by this, I am in control of the day that I have, just based on how I decide to wake up with my mind. I'm either going to have a good day, or I'm going to have a bad day. And so if we can really get that, we have a lot of control in that area. And I love how you talk about the being perfect, not being so perfect, and how women want to be perfect all the time. And I think we do. I think a lot of women, because we juggle, I call so many things in the air at one time. A lot of times, what happens if one of those items fall or fumble, women tend to lose themselves a lot. They
Yeah.
begin to feel devalued. They begin to feel as though they're worthless, or they made this huge mistake that they can never come back from. And I oftentimes wonder, where does a lot of that stem from? A lot of times it's from their childhood. Sometimes they're in a relationship where someone is telling them
Hmm.
that you need to be perfect, and they're setting such high standards for themselves, or they're allowing someone else to set those standards. Why is it that, why do you feel that women think that they have to be perfect 24/7, and when they're not worthy?
Well, I do think a lot of this comes down to social media, where people see and compare themselves to everybody else that they see, and they think they only see everybody's best side. Nobody's going to show their crummy side on social media. So, one of the ways I think that women become discouraged is because of the comparisons, and this comparison trap can truly boggle our mind and really get us down. But I think another thing we have to recognize is our focus and what we ruminate on and what we look at. Often, when something happens to us, we tend to just, that becomes the big thing. It's just all we can see. And so, what I encourage women to do is to step back and to think about, if you're in a movie theater. In fact, I remember one time I went to a movie, and we got there late, and it was opening night, and we had to sit on the front row of the movie theater. Well, everything in that movie was gigantic. We couldn't even
Right,
get an idea of what was
right.
going on in the movie. We had to see the movie again, sitting in the middle of the theater, just to get a bigger picture. So often I tell women, step back. Step back from what seems so big to you right now. Step back and look at the bigger picture. And then always ask the question, Lord, what are you trying to teach me through this situation? I think often we forget that the Lord has allowed whatever has happened to us, He has allowed it for a
That's
purpose. Often we can learn from that situation, grow from it, become a stronger woman through the situation. So, looking up and asking the Lord, Lord, help me to get a new perspective on this, a hope filled perspective, a God perspective.
And I agree with you. During my coaching times, when I'm coaching a woman and she's going through something traumatic, whether it's divorce, whatever it is, I'm always saying to everyone, because I had to learn this, it took a long time to get there, but I had to learn something you just said. First of all, nothing that happens in our life caught God by surprise. God is not sitting in heaven with a picture and an eraser and saying, "Oh my God," and scratching his head. "Oh my God, I had no idea this was going to happen. Well, let me scratch this off and start drawing a new picture." If we can rest in our mind knowing that every single thing that occurs in our life, God has already seen it.
Yes.
Therefore, if he knows that it's going to take place, we have to trust and believe that he's gone ahead of us and paved the way for victory. And I think it took me a long time to be able to release, because as women, well, I know me sometimes want to be so controlling. And I think if we can grasp hold to that, we will release so much stress and pressure off of our mind, off of our heart, and just out of our life.
Yes. Yes, you are right. You're right. And I think just recognizing and asking God, Lord, give me a picture of hope. Give me a picture of what you can do. A friend of mine wears a little wristband all the time and it says, God is bigger. And it's just a reminder that God is bigger than whatever I'm going through. Whatever situation, He has seen it. He knows He's not surprised, and He can go before us. And He has given us His Spirit to help us, to give us strength from within.
Yeah.
I think that's the other place where we tend to despair is we think that we are weak, that we can't, that we, I can't do this. And how many times do we tell ourselves, I can't, or I'm worn out, or I'm overwhelmed? Let's remember that we have the same spirit in us that
That's true.
rose Jesus from the dead. We have the same spirit within us that calmed the ocean, that calmed the waves in the sea. We have the same spirit in us that brought order from chaos in the beginning when all was created here on earth. And I think, this is the same God who is at work within me. And He can give me the power and the strength to get through this. I am strong because it's not me, it's Christ within me.
That's right.
He will
That's
help
true.
me.
Exactly. Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit before we get deeper into the book. I want to talk a little bit. In your book, you have the 10 Commandments for an Unhappy Life. And I thought it, and I know it serves as a humorous reminder of the choices that we face daily. Are we going to rise basically, or are we going to decide to fall? Are we going to run or just sit on the sideline basically? And so for the sake of time, I only want to reference five of them. And so I have, thou shalt hold on to bitterness and anger. Then I have, thou shalt put aside play and shall inflict upon others that which was once inflicted upon thyself. Thou shalt hold regular pity parties, inviting others to join thou. Thou shalt expect the worst in all situations, blame and shame everyone around thyself for everything, and dwell on the feebleness, faults, and fears of others. And five, thou shalt be in control at all times, no matter what. So I like that you put this in the book because it is a humorous aspect to it, but it is reality. A lot of women do this,
Mhm.
inflict those negative words and negative self-talk upon themselves, and really want to hold on to a grudge and not let it go. And in chapter 2 you talk about a perfect fit.
Mhm.
So how can a woman find her source of power and strength? Or better yet, how can a woman become positive so that she can find her source of power and strength?
Well, that is a good question, Leslie. And as we look at those humorous commandments on how to have an unhappy life, you can see that most of them are rehashing past hurts, just continuing to ruminate about difficulties or mistakes of the past.
Right.
And as women, we're real good at that. We
Okay.
are real good at thinking and beating ourselves up in our brains, thinking about the things that we've done wrong.
That's right.
And so we have to, first of all, recognize that. Recognize when we're going down that road of unhappiness, that when we're following some of those 10 commands of the unhappy life. And stop and recognize it, but then turn. And this is where I think women maybe sometimes get in front of themselves. I think often we begin to talk with other people about either our challenge or our anger or whatever we've gone through, and rightly so. There's a time and a place when we do need to talk with somebody, but let's go to God
Mhm.
first.
That's
Let's talk to Him first.
right.
There have been so many times when I thought, I am so angry about this. But when I got on my knees and asked the Lord to help me think through this from His perspective, He's changed my heart. He's helped me see it a different way. But when we continue to call up that next friend and call up that next person and tell the story over and over again,
Oh, yeah.
it becomes bigger and bigger in our minds.
Yeah.
So, taking it to the Lord first to me is a first step toward being positive and allowing the power of His Spirit to work in us instead of just trying to get other people to fix it.
And that is so huge that you just said that, because I think as women, that is the first thing to do. Let's call a girlfriend. No, let's get in what I love to call my closet is my prayer closet. And I start my day that way. I end my day that way. And so for me, not that we're saying that you can't go to a girlfriend for to have a conversation and to talk things through, but the first thing is to go to God. I mean, He's just the best comforter that we could ever have, and He never closes His door. He's around 24/7. He's always alive, and He will never give us information that will confuse us or make things worse for us. And sometimes when we go to girlfriends or other people for advice, they're inflecting their own personal opinions a lot of time, and it may be maybe good opinions or suggestions, but sometimes it may not be what you need in your life right now. So I totally agree with you, and I always listen to or think about when the children of Israel was like right at the Red Sea, and God was getting ready to part the Red Sea. And I can only imagine how much fear that was for them, because they did not know what was going to happen. They did not know if God was going to have them walk through the water and drown. They did not know how He was going to carry them to the other side. But what God really wanted them to do is to stand and to be aware and to believe in Him. And I think as women, if, like you said, being positive is starting with God first, because no matter how afraid we may be and how scary something may look, God, if He's going to part the Red Sea in His own timing, but He will
Mhm.
part the Red Sea on our behalf. And I think that will bring a lot of joy. I know for sure it brings a lot of joy if we can just stand and rest in that. But as women, that's a little bit hard for us to do because we're saying, okay, God, I got this. Were you going to say something?
Right. No, that is exactly it. I think that we try and take control, kind of like one of those 10 commandments, we try and control the situation and the outcome because a lot of times we think we know what's best. And maybe God's given us some wisdom, but let's go to God first and ask Him for direction and wisdom. It's no mistake that Paul said, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. He does. God wants us to be joyful. He wants us to live in a joyful state. But it's a rejoicing in Him, not in our circumstances, not in perfection,
Right.
or not in perfect people, because no one's perfect. So putting our reliance on people, putting our reliance on ourselves is only going to lead us to frustration and to feeling like having those feelings like you mentioned earlier, those feelings like we're a failure. Well, let's go to Him first, because there is great joy and delight in the heart for when we bring our cares to Him.
And there's peace.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that
Yeah. Yes, that's one of those things too that I think that in our world today, there is such a lack of peace. And yet, Paul wrote to the Colossians, he said, let the peace of Christ rule in your heart. Now, that peace of Christ ruling, that word rule means referee. So picture a soccer game. And a soccer game, we have to have a referee or there's complete chaos. Think about it when we are tending to get upset or overwhelmed at something. If we will let the peace of Christ blow the whistle, referee, referee our hearts. If we will say, God, I need your peace in this situation. I'm trying to solve it myself. I'm starting to get restless. Lord, I want your peace. Jesus even said, peace I give to you.
Yeah,
Not
yes,
as the world it gives, because
right.
in the world you're going to have tribulation, but
Right.
in Him we will have peace. He is the God of peace.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, Karol, and we're going to come back and finish the rest of our conversation. When we come back with Karol Ladd, we're going to delve a little deeper into her book. Back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Johnny Rodriguez, the owner of Johnny Rodriguez Salon, and I love partnering up with Leslie O'Hara and taking care of our clients. Our main focus is to take care of women and their hair needs, along with their beauty needs. We want to make sure that we get to know you from the inside out. We work with your lifestyle, not just your hairstyle, but your facial structure. We'll teach you how to do your hair, make sure you're confident in how to duplicate that look, and just to make sure that you feel as good on the inside as you do on the outside. So can't wait to work with you. Can't wait to come see you. Book a consultation or an appointment at either location in Dallas or Plano. And we look forward to seeing you.
We are back live with Karol Ladd, best-selling author of over 35 books. I'm Leslie O'Hare, your host. Thank you so much for sharing, or for taking the time to share in this conversation with Karol and I today. And Karol, I want to delve a little bit into the book, a little bit more into the book, The Power of a Positive Woman. You have 7 power-filled principles, and so I want to talk about those. So let me bring those up really quick, and we'll give me 1 second. So we have the first one, becoming a woman of faith, becoming a woman of wisdom, becoming a woman of prayer, becoming a woman of joy. We have the 5th principle is becoming a woman of love, becoming a woman of courage, and the last one is becoming a woman of hope. I want to take 3 of these for the sake of time. I want to talk about them a little more. One of the ones that really stuck out for me, all of them did, but becoming a woman of wisdom.
Mm.
I think that's essential because we are mothers, we're wives, we're sisters, we're entrepreneurs, we're successful women. And a woman of wisdom, we have to make a lot of choices and decisions, whether
Mm.
that's in our relationship, business, or professional, even with our children. How can you help women understand, or what would be one of the greatest steps that a woman could take right now that really doesn't feel wise in her decision making?
Well, I think that one of the things that we could do is it's so easy for us to begin looking at other people and looking at what they're doing and thinking that's what I've got to do.
Right.
And we think that whatever other people's story is needs to be my story, and that's not true. We've got to quit looking at what other people are doing. I used to be a track coach, and one of the things I told my runners is I said, keep your eye on the finish line. Don't look at your competitors, because the second you look at your competitors, you've lost the race, because just
Right.
that second can throw you off enough that you've lost the race. Run your own race. And so that's what I would tell women as they get so gobbled up in the things that they see, whether it's on television or media or movies, or just even their close friends, what they're doing, and they think, well, I've got to be doing that too. Whether it's filling our kids' lives filled full of every kind of sport and every kind of class and everything like that, and overwhelming our lives, or just even looking at the what other people do and thinking, I've got to be talented like her. I've got to be working, 5 days a week like her. And
Right.
so we trip ourselves up. True wisdom comes from the Lord. And wisdom actually, so if I were going to encourage women to grow in wisdom, I would say, let's first of all ask the Lord for wisdom, because he says in James, I will give it generously to all without finding fault. So he gives us wisdom. Wisdom comes from the Lord. But also, I would say, be heavy in his word. Spend time digging deep into his word. Now that doesn't mean hours a day, but what I'm saying is just take some time to feed on his word, just like you feed on good food. And a lot of us are in this
Exactly.
world today are foodies. Well, let's feed on really good wisdom. And that comes from God's word.
This is, I think you mentioned this, a reference that maybe two or three times in the show today, and I keep forgetting to go back to that. You talk about social media and
Mhm.
how women, and we all do, we look at social media, they see a happy couple. And maybe it's a single woman looking at another woman who's married or dating, and they just so want that life. Or maybe it's someone who has a home and they so want that life. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think people base their day on whether they're liked today or not liked today, whether they have a comment today or no comment today. And when you get to that point of, my life is based on whether I'm liked on social media, really, and half the time it's the people that you don't even know. So wisdom also, is half the time you don't even know the people that don't like you. And I always say, people either going to like you or they don't. And if they don't, those are not the ones that God want in your life in the first place. You want people that's going to embrace you and love you and encourage you and lift you up. And you want people that are going to instill wisdom in your life.
Yes.
You know
Yes.
and so let's go to this one. I also wanted to touch upon becoming a woman of prayer, because you talked about the extra baggage and how to let go of that load. Well, I have a women's conference that I'm going to be doing in 2022 called Too Heavy to Carry. And Too Heavy to Carry is about the baggage that women carry on their shoulder, the baggage of guilt. Let it go. The baggage of shame, let that go. The baggage of rejection, let that go. Whatever it is, to let it go. Why is it important to you to put that in the book, and what strategies do you have, the top two, for a woman to let it go and release that baggage so that she can walk straight with her shoulders back, head up, and walk in a dignity and see herself as God sees her?
Oh, that's so good. That's so well put. And I love your whole theme of baggage. It's interesting in Psalms, Psalm 27, it says, "Commit your way to the Lord." Well,
Yes.
that word "commit" actually means to roll to Him. And so I think about baggage in that way as well, because we have these roller bags and they're filled with bags, filled with all the stuff, all
Right.
our stuff, that we think is valuable. Think about when you go to an airport and you roll your bag to that gate, the attendant or the airline attendant, and you give them your bag. You're giving them all this important stuff,
Right.
and then you supposedly don't worry about it until you get to your destination.
Exactly.
Well, how much more should we be rolling that our stuff, our baggage, the things that we worry about? We should be rolling that, committing that, as Psalm 27 says, committing it to the Lord. And just as we would roll a baggage over to the attendant there at the airline, let's roll our cares over to the Lord. We know they're in good hands with the Lord. I'm not so sure about the baggage attendants at
Yes.
the airlines, but
Right.
but we do know they're in good hands with the Lord. So
Exactly.
I would say, even just as you're using that baggage analogy, let's just even think about right now, what's in my bag? What am I trying to carry on my own? I'm just I've even done this in my prayer time, just even physically or just thinking about, okay, what things do I need to put in my bag and roll to the Lord and to commit to Him trusting him and not trying to grab it off the plane in the middle of the flight.
Right, exactly.
So,
That would be very catastrophic.
right, it would. Yes, it would. So don't do that. And isn't that funny? In life, that possibly could be catastrophic as well as where we
Right.
try and take things back in our own hands.
That is
So
so true.
that is one thing. But the other thing I would like to say is that in Colossians, we're told to be devoted to prayer. That word devote means continual and vigilant.
Mhm.
And, we could look at that two ways. We could look at it as never stop your prayer life. Always have a consistent prayer life. Starting your day with prayer and rolling those bags over to the Lord in prayer every day. But it also could mean continually throughout your day, as you are going throughout your day, to whisper a prayer to Him. Oh, Lord, I don't know how to share with this person, or I don't know what to do in this situation. Lord, help me. I think we need both. I think we need to do both of those
I
things.
agree with
I think we need to start our day with prayer, because we're more likely, if we started our day with prayer with that heavenly focus, we're much more likely to pray to him throughout the day and see each event in the day as something that he is allowing for a purpose.
That's so true. And I think whenever we do that, I say a lot of times I speak in churches from time to time, and I have a message that I do: go back and get your rock. And going back to get your rock is not literally a rock, but you're going when you're in a tough time and you're in a storm. If you just look back on what God has brought you through, that's going back to get your rock. So if God was there for you back then when you went through whatever storm you went through, what would lead you to believe that he isn't with you right now? And what we need to do as women is allow space in the boat for God to have place his footing, to be in the middle and the center of whatever the storm is that we're going through. And so
Mm.
that's so wonderful and well put what you just said. I think is so wonderful. And I really believe and know for sure actually that there's a woman or many women who are watching the show, they're being inspired. And Carol and I really hope that you take the time to allow this information to really seep into your heart, mind, body, and soul, and allow you to take this information to help you to build a more intimate, closer relationship with God so that you can live the positive life. Because, isn't it, Carol? God really wants us to be positive.
He does. I mean, all of his qualities are positive. Think about when Paul gave the list of the fruit of the spirit. His spirit within us is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Well, those are all very positive qualities. And Paul throughout scripture tells us to rejoice in the Lord always, and he also tells us to be thankful. And he tells us that over and over again. Leslie, I've started a practice and it has been monumental to me. Is every morning when I get my first cup of coffee, I sit down and I write down at least 5 things I'm thankful for over the last 24 hours. 5 things that I've seen God at work doing. It's kind of like those rocks, to see what has God done in the last 24 hours. So it
Exactly.
turns my focus and makes me think about God is at work. Look at what
Right.
he did, and look at what,
Exactly.
yeah. And so that's just one way that I think that in his word he tells us to be positive, but there's a practical way that we can apply that too in being a thankful person.
Absolutely. And it keeps us from being negative.
Hmm.
It keeps us from being negative for sure. The third one that I want to go over is principle number 6. It says, becoming a woman of courage. In chapter 13, your subtitle is, or the title is, High Heels on a Dirt Road. Love it. And you also talk high heels on a dirt road, walking with courage down the road of life. And when I think about walking in high heels on a dirt road, if we can only, all of us that wear heels, we can only imagine how scary or unstable that can be, you know? And, but at the same time, no matter how unstable, how rocky life may become, and how fearful that we don't feel like we have our balance, if we just become centered and aligned with God, we will find that we have our balance. It's like a model walking. I remember when I took modeling many, many years ago, and they will put the books, and I was in social etiquette classes as well as a child, and they will put the books on our head, and we would have to walk very prim and proper and straight. And if we can just do the same thing in life with God when we're on those rocky grounds, what would you say to a woman that's a little off balance and she's walking on really rocky ground right now? How can you encourage her today to stand centered as if she has those books on her head?
To stand with balance, right? Well,
Yes.
I think, and we have addressed this over and over again, but I think that it's worth saying again, is that the first thing that I would say to somebody who feels that way, feels out of balance or maybe overwhelmed, is to first of all go back to being devoted to prayer. Just and really that quiet time. I love how you said in your closet. I have a special room in my house where I get on my knees and I truly have this time where I can ask the Lord for direction and for help. But we also need to ask for courage to step forward where He wants us to step. And it's interesting. It's so easy for us to get our eyes, on the challenges, and we forget that we have a big God who has given us His Spirit to help us move forward with courage. You know that word courage. The root word is cur, the Latin word heart. And so He can strengthen our hearts in ways that we cannot, or the world cannot strengthen us. So I think the most important thing is make sure you're going the right direction, and that's being a woman of wisdom. But
Right.
then as you step forward, ask the Lord, Lord, give me courage for the next step. I think where we get off again, and Leslie, this is kind of a theme of things we're talking about too, as far as focus, we get our eyes on what's way ahead of us. Well, what if in 3 years from now, blah, 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 we start thinking about, well, next week I can't handle this. I can't go on. Well, why not? Let's ask God for strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Lord, give me
Right.
the strength and the courage to face the next step, not 10 steps down, just the next
The
step.
next one.
Help me to be
Yeah.
brave. Yes, yes. And I think that that's where we get tripped up, is when we're imagining and fearing the unknown of what's even 5 steps down the way.
I want to touch really quick on, are you familiar with The Shack? The book and the movie The
Yes,
Shack? Have you
yes.
seen it?
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yes, yes.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
yes.
I read the book first. Years later, the movie came out. Well, there's one part you said something that really just clicked for me, was relatable to the movie. When the dad was in the boat was filling up with oil, and Jesus is walking on the water. Every time he looked down, you talked about looking at our problems.
Mm.
Every time the dad looks down, the boat fills up with oil. When he looks at Jesus, the boat clears. He looks back down, it filled up with oil. And basically what they're saying in the movie, every time he looked at his problems, he was afraid. He felt alone. If he only looked that Jesus was on the water, meaning God was right there with him all the time. And God kept saying, keep your eyes on me, keep your eyes on me. And every time he kept his
Mhm.
eyes on God, the oil dissipated from the boat. And that part of the movie just sticks with me so much, because that is exactly
Mhm.
everything that he just said. If we just keep our
Yes.
eyes, it gives me chills to just talk about it and think about it, because we all go through a lot. I've been through a lot in life, but if I could just keep my eyes, and if everyone watching just keeps your eyes on God, it just relieves so much pressure and stresses we talked about earlier, but you begin to smile. And there's nothing like
Mm.
being happy and
Yes.
smiling. I want to end with this question, Carol. Well, before I ask you the last question, I wanted to make certain we talk about your Engage Positive Parenting Initiative. Tell us more about that, because I
Mhm.
love that you created this outreach program to engage. You offer discussion based groups for women and men, for
Mhm.
individuals who are affected by poverty or adversity. Tell us about it. How can people get
Mhm.
involved by volunteering or donating?
Oh, it's a wonderful organization, and I think the key is that we use discussion to empower the participants instead of just going in and telling them, "Here's how you parent. This is how I parent. You should parent this way." We don't do that. We go in talking about parenting. We talk about certain parenting topics, and then we lead them to, okay, in light of all we've talked about, how can you equip your kids? How can you encourage them? How can you be a good example to them? We have seen transformation in parents because of this discussion style method, and it's very exciting. If anybody wants to volunteer, it's really basically leading discussion, and we start off with the whole premise of there are no perfect parents. We I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, we're all in this together, so don't
A
think
work in
that somebody has to
progress.
be perfect parent to be able to.
Right.
Yes, we're all works in progress, aren't we? Yes, we are. So I encourage, yes, we'd love to have more volunteers because we train the volunteers on how to lead the discussion, and then we typically put them together with a group that is already serving in a community, and we're just bringing in that parenting class. And these parenting classes really truly do make a difference in the parents' lives, and it
Oh,
makes a
sure.
difference for generations to come as you see
Absolutely.
these parents impacting their kids, and their kids go on to do great things and to have a whole and balanced life. And so it's really exciting. So engageparenting.com is our website, and that's where you can find out more about volunteering or just getting involved in some way. And it really is a delightful organization. It's been a life changer for me personally,
That's awesome.
as God led me to start it, and the friendships I've made through this process has been just a beautiful transformation for me.
Well, I definitely thank you for starting that organization. I think it's very much needed, and being a parent is very, very hard for a lot of parents. And any type of help or assistance that a parent that you can give to a parent, I so give you kudos for doing that. I think it's amazing. I want to ask you as we wrap up, what is your I got it moment? The I got it moment, I love asking guests this question because it's a time where something didn't click in your life before, but you've had a life lesson. And all of a sudden you have that aha moment and it's made a difference in your life and it will stay with you for the rest of your life. What has been your I got it moment through the process of writing this book, The Power of a Positive Woman, and your other books?
Well, I would say my I got it moment was when I realized that I can change my focus. I don't have to keep focusing on what's wrong and what I'm
Mm,
angry about or what I've done in the past. That I can change my focus. God has equipped our brains to change our and to build new neural pathways so that we can begin thinking in a new direction, a direction of hope, a direction
mm,
of faith, recognizing that we are not alone. So the true
yes.
aha moment to me was when I recognized that not only am I saved by God's grace through Jesus, but that he's also given me his spirit to help me live this life of faith and with courage and strength and thankfulness and joy. And so I can live in a new direction. I don't have to be stuck in my past, stuck in my mistakes, and stuck
Right.
in just ruminating over what's wrong. I can make a new change, and it's through
And
the
you can
power of
move.
Christ.
I think that's very well put. It's been really a great honor interviewing you and having this conversation. And I want everyone to go to positivelifeprinciples.com to find out more about Karol. And Karol, I believe they can also purchase a copy of The Power of a Positive Woman from that site, or is that correct?
Yes, or just simply on Amazon. Sometimes it's easier and quicker on Amazon. So either way, that's great. Yes, I'd love to.
Fantastic. Definitely go to positivelifeprinciples.com or Amazon to purchase Karol's book, The Power of a Positive Woman, or to purchase any one of her many books. They're all great. You won't be disappointed. Karol, it's been great for you being here today, having the conversation. As we close the segment, what would you say to one woman that you would want her I Got It moment to be when she picks up The Power of a Positive Woman? What would you hope her takeaway, her I Got It moment to be from the book that will change her life?
Well, I hope that it's hard to sum that up into one, but my hope is that you recognize that God has equipped you,
Mm.
each one of you. God has given us gifts and talents and abilities unique to just you. And he has a
That's
plan for your life. And he's not finished with you yet. He knows that he has a plan for your life. He's created you and he is not finished with you. He is still doing a great work in and through you. So keep your eyes on him.
Thank you so much, Karol. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Leslie, and you're doing a great work. I'm thankful for all you do to pour into the lives of women and to make a difference in this world, a positive difference.
Thank you so much. That's very humbling hearing it from you, so I appreciate it. Thanks again for being a guest. Everyone, we'll be back in a moment. Take a quick short break and we'll be back in one moment. Thanks, Karol.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And as you know, I love ending with the art of manifestation. I tell you every single week, whatever it is that you want out of life, whether it's to start a business, have a family, get married, whatever your goal and aspirations are, don't allow the noise of the world, which is stress, distractions, any negativity to take you down. Whatever it is that you want out of life, I want you, as you hear me say constantly, have faith in God and just know that whatever it is that you believe in God, trust that He will guide you through. You have to ask Him to guide you. You have to have the faith and then put that faith into work, because faith without works is dead. If you apply the action steps and move forward, I promise you, God will definitely guide you all the way to victory. I want you to continue to dream and dream big. Remember to tune in every Friday, 3 o'clock Central Time, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And send me a friend request on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. I look so forward to having continuous conversations with you. And I want to thank you again for allowing me to come into your home, into your workplace, and into your cars, into your heart, and into your life. Till next time, everybody. Bye. Have a great day.